Blog Talk Radio.
Join us for the premiere episode of the White Buffalo Nation's utopian reality Slope, Save Life on Planet Earth blog talk radio show, bringing you solution bearers with practical, proven, scientific ways to help you eliminate global irradiation and extinction level threats from your body and to sustain global waters, air, soil, and sentient life. Welcome. Greetings. This is Lisa Wolf of Slope, Save Life on Planet Earth, your host. On these Saturday shows, we're bringing you life-enhancing and life-saving information about how to bioremediate yourself and those you love from the high levels of radiation and air and waterborne contaminants across North America and the Northern Hemisphere. Our guest today is Roland Thomas, an MD, who is the founder of BioAge, editor of its monthly wellness e-newsletter, and author of the books, The Magic of Bioalgae Concentrates and Awakening the Genius Within. Welcome, Roland.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Good afternoon. It's Sunday, by the way.
Yes, it is. It's a beautiful Sunday. It happens to be my birthday.
I say that because you said on this Saturday show. Well, that's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I beg your pardon.
No.
So, thank you so much. So, Roland, the title of our show is Algae to Thrive in Toxic Times. Can you tell the listeners and me what do you mean by toxic times?
Oh, absolutely. It's a broad topic, but I'll try to. We have limited time. Like never before, and increasingly we live in a toxic world, and everybody knows that. Everybody's heard about fluoride and chlorine and those things that date back to 50 years ago. DDT is still in our memory, but still present in our soil. Herbicides, pesticides, unendingly changing their formula to meet regulations, but regulations never catch up with the industry. Mercury fillings is still something that's out there. The mercury come in to the tune of 10 tons per year in the atmosphere from China's chimneys, for example. Chernobyl is still releasing radioactive particles in the atmosphere. And then we had Fukushima. Fine, we all know about that. But
I saw some amazing big EPA website showing that Las Vegas and Reno, I'm in Nevada, are showing clicks per minute above 5,000, which is very dangerous.
Absolutely.
Radiation, yeah, it's not just from Fukushima.
Yeah, I mean, we have hundreds of nuclear facilities in the world, and many in the United States, as you know, that are spewing some chemical. But more importantly, when I started to research water in the 80s, I was amazed at the thousands of potential chemicals in our water. But I read later on a book, and I urge you, your audience, to read it if you have a chance, Green Intelligence. The author is John Wargo, is a Yale University professor of environmental policy risk analysis. Now, he knows what he's talking about. And if you read that book, you'll forever never be naive. He goes on to share how many hundreds and thousands, actually, of known and yet unknown mixes of synthetic chemicals that are happening in our plastics, in our produce, in our food, in our preservative, in our packaging, in the furniture, in the carpets we breathe, and on and on. And, for example, he'll share with us that DDT is still present in dairy cow's milk in some regions.
Wow.
Now, when you read that book, you realize that it is unending, but what's so amazing, and that's why I want to share this topic with the folks is that we're still around, we're surviving, we're there, we're very resilient, but yet there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of suffering, there's a lot of potential cancer and certain disorder, including early dementia, Alzheimer, that's happening at an alarming rate. So there's something we can do about it. I'm very hopeful, and I have some ideas that I could suggest to you today.
Wonderful. And so, Roland, how did you become involved with algae as a solution to human health then?
In the 80s, I read and took some blue-green algae. It became known then. There were several books that were written, for example, by Dr. Cousins and so forth. And I found some great benefits from these plain green algae, blue-green algae, chlorella, and so forth. But it really got passionate about it more when I met a scientist, a Russian scientist, Dr. Michael Kiriak, that had researched for over 15 years, developing, nurturing, growing technology in Russia to look for solutions for huge epidemic of low productivity and cancer in the livestock industry of the former Soviet Union. They had latched on to the concept of concentrating algae through good technology, through hydroponic technology, but also blending certain algae together to achieve a broadness, a greater nutritional completeness, and yet maintain a nutritional balance, but also increase the synergy, as in food combination, dramatically increase the efficiency of food. And it was researched with hundreds of thousands of animals, thousands of test groups, and eventually in very large trials amounting to over 1 million animals. And they proved undeniably and empirically and without cheating, without the placebo effect, since you're working with animal, as well as without capitalistic, if you wish, influence to say this. You know, if you're bought to say something, you'll say it. So these were really pure altruistic research, and what it showed is it was prevention of the low productivity issues, prevention of tumors, of new cancers, and many other imbalance in various species, but more importantly, an increase in productivity, which translated in 20% more produce, such as more milk per day, more eggs per year, better quality of the milk and eggs and the meat, more in the larger litters, in minks, in dogs and cats and so forth, definitely measured at such percentage of increase. And this is undeniable. And I met him in 1998. And after reading his bio, listening to his research, I became very passionate about this concept of bioalgae concentrates.
Yes. And he had success with Chernobyl, did he not?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Yes, during his research in 1985, they had achieved such a reputation with animals, but they were always working with the researchers and their families, of course, on the side, since this was a pure food, pure algae, as well as in small research group with local clinics with human. But this was not his formal mandate. But after Chernobyl, he was allowed to experiment with many of the condemned victims, if you wish, those that were severely impacted by radiation ills or remotely from Chernobyl. And over the next year, he worked with hundreds of people, mostly with children, in various centers where, as you know, over 500,000 people had been evacuated from the city. And so many of these people were not dead early on, but they suffered from, particularly from leukemia, anemia, in advanced leukemia to the point of dying, and he applied this food to those victims with great result. Many are alive today because of that experiment.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we're going to be talking throughout the rest of the show on this amazing subject of how a microscopic algae food, they are food, aren't Dr. Thomas?
That's what's so refreshing about them. They're 100% of food and not like a medicine or a chemical. They're 100% whole food, organic. That's what attracted me the most. But the fact that they're so efficient is what's so exciting about them.
Well, we're going to take a break to hear a word about our sponsor, and we'll be right back with Dr. Thomas to learn more about how we can protect our own lives and make it through these challenging times. And now a word from a sponsor, New Portal, working with us to enhance life. Calling all world changers and visionaries. Attention, world changers and visionaries. Do you have a green or caring cause, project, or company that you want to take to your next level? Do you want increased production, increased income, funds, large or small funding programs? Then visit newportal.org. New Portal is more productive and profitable than combining Facebook, Salesforce, Kickstarter, e-commerce, email marketing, telemarketing, press releases, Google+, LinkedIn, Twitter. Visit newportal.org/bizcard/save life on planet Earth. New Portal, making a better future for us all. So, Dr. Thomas, let's speak some more about the topic of microalgae and protection from radiation and pollution. That's what brought us together, I think, was looking for solutions to this, at this point, unending problem. It really can help. How so?
Yeah. Yes. Back to your questions just before we went to the break. You were asking if they were a food. They are a food, but there are foods and then there are foods. Say on a scale of 0 to 10, and I'm gonna play a game here. McDonald's French fries would be more like a -50 in terms of quality. Right. In terms of rendering, proper nutrition, proper support for the cells of our body. While a bunch of parsley, a fresh parsley, or kale, or some other wonderful green food, might be an 8 or a 9. Not necessarily a perfect food, but certainly not a harmful food, and easily digested, and will get the energy and the nutrients from this parsley. While algae have been known for many decades, certainly experimentally, but known scientifically, to be way beyond that scale. We're looking at a plain algae being a 20 or a 30 or a 50 on the scale of efficiency being rendering its purpose. We derive, food is really fuel, and we derive energy from our food at the cellular level. And algae, and particularly the blue-green algae, are known to be the only food on Earth that can release 100% of its energy potential to the first consumer. That is well documented in natural science. But what the Russians were able to do with concentrating the plant, those are microscopic plants. Imagine one grain of this food, invisible to your naked eye, can yield as many as 15,000 compounds or nutrients.
Wow.
This is incomparable with French fries or with parsley. What the Russians were able to do was to multiply through this blending, through the way they were nurturing them, and the specific blending to continue to achieve a greater completeness, a broadness of nutrients, maintain the balance, but explode the synergy. So that this food is efficient 1,000 times more than your regular salads and potatoes. And what are we talking about, efficiency? We're talking about, reaching cells. That's very efficient. Many foods can do that. But particularly reaching the brain through the bloodstream and crossing the blood-brain barrier and reaching the hypothalamus of the brain. The hypothalamus is an area of the brain protected from aggression, from toxicity, or from too much of any nutrients. It's protected through the blood-brain barrier is really where the vessels become so small that barely anything but microscopic can come close, but also the hypothalamus, at some point, there's no more blood vessel. We're talking about feeding through pressure, through osmosis, where just like the retina, where nutrients will come in through the tissue, through a pressure, but those nutrients must be perfect because the hypothalamus is the most critical, central agency of our body, which regulates all metabolism, and particularly the first thing that our hypothalamus orchestrates is the coherence of acquisition of energy at our cellular level. The coherence of energy. Energy we are, but the coherence is the equivalent of, this is really the crux of the discovery of the invention of this blend, is something similar to, if you recall, some of us will recall, the carburetor in our engines, where our father would open the hood of the car and remove the cap of the carburetor to clean it, and clean it with air or alcohol, and then reconnect it. And there was a screw that they could turn left or right to adjust the proper, you could hear the motor humming after when it was well adjusted. It's exactly what the job of the hypothalamus is, to restore our frequency or coherence. So consuming this food is not about a forceful attack of food. It's about the subtle ability to reach the hypothalamus, cause there an awakening, and that's why I wrote a book called Awakening the Genius Within, cause a nutritional, energetic, a kick on the shin, if you wish, of the hypothalamus, so that it wakes up and begins to, and you consume this food regularly throughout the day, even 2, 3, 4, 5 times, to continuously fine-tune your coherence so that you can fare well amidst the daily toxicity and our loss of energy. It's really about energy. The name of the game is energy, and not, excuse me for that noise, it's not about, this won't be long. It never ends here. So anyway, that's really...
well, my question to you is, we have listeners, across the United States. So if other people pay attention to...
I'm going to try and shut this down. Yeah.
The list of
I'm so sorry.
Across the U.S. that have incredibly high radiation levels. What will taking BioAge do for people like me living in states where, the rad levels are above what's considered evacuation? How will BioAge help our listeners?
That is a wonderful question.
They
and
can make it
you know,
through these times.
yeah. Can you still hear me well?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. Well, you can walk amongst the. I use the analogy of Jesus, assuming he may or may not have existed, but I think he did. He was a good guy, and he could walk amongst the lepers. I think Jesus had kept himself slim and healthy. I think he had walked to India and back. Maybe he was really fit, but particularly he ate olives, I think, and good foods and grape and a glass of wine once in a while. But he kept his frequency. He kept himself in good, energetic fitness, and so he was able to combat. His immune system was always on top of things. I have not had a cold in 18 years, Lisa. I was telling you the other day, since I began taking these capsules. So it helps with fighting toxicity from within rather than the Dr. Oz approach, which is to wear gloves and a mask and to wash your hands at every door. And, you can't do anything if you're afraid. So it builds your immunity from the core, from the bone marrow, from every mitochondria in your body to function better, and the coherence, though, as well. Because energy we are. People say, I'm tired. Well, it's a feeling. But the reality is that you're boiling energy. It's just you lose that coherence. Coherence is a game. It's like a game of football where everybody has to play the game. You can't just run with the ball on the sideline. So that's what it does for us. Consuming the algae frequently throughout the day, 2, 3, 4 times, keeps awakening the hypothalamus, the coach, if you wish, the conductor of the Philharmonic Orchestra, which is our body with our glands, with our endocrine system, with our organs, with the lymphatic system. I mean, it's incredibly complex, yet there is a genius within. By the way, every cell in our body itself are geniuses. One cell in our body, and I remind people, every cell in your body is as complex as the city of New York, for example. In terms of players, there's millions of molecules interacting, and you need energy for that activity to take place properly, and as well, cells must work together. The cells of an organ, for example, the cells of the kidney are responsible to synthesize the real vitamin D, which is a hormone. So you want to have the coherence as well as the communication with the brain. The orchestration comes from the top because the cells of the kidney will synthesize that vitamin D once the hypothalamus requests for it. It's a constant play, yes?
Dr. Thomas, can all algae help with bioremediation from radiation, chemtrails, toxicity?
To some extent, yes. Obviously, there are some bad algae out there. We know that. And there are some algae that are not so efficient, such as, I don't like to pick on anyone negatively, but chlorella is not the best. Why? Because it's too much cellulose. It's a very tough cellulose membrane that even when we say we break the cell wall, remains in this substance that we consume, and it's undigestible. While plain algae,
I would think that people have to watch out where the algae comes from, too.
Absolutely. There's pollution. It breaks. Correct. Mm-hmm. And the algae, the bioalgae are grown in protected bioreactor using thermal spring water with hundreds of trace elements and mineral rich coming from 2,000 feet under a volcanic area. So there's no pollution, unlike, let's say, spirulina grown in lagoon in the ocean on Hawaii, for example, or in Thailand or China or India. There's lots of airborne pollution that we talked about before, and lots of lake, all bodies of water on Earth contains upwards of 65,000 different types of chemical pollutants. We know that today.
Yes. Yes.
So, yet, even with all that, algae is better than not. But obviously, you want to look for those most pure, most organic. But any single algae, Lisa, I must say, I'm so passionate about the bioalgae, is incomparable in terms of efficiency on that 0 to 10 scale that I described earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Incomparable, because the results with the bioalgae are tangible. They're evident within the first day or two, and you need very little, one capsule or two, as opposed to a tablespoon or teaspoons of other algae. The efficiency.
Well, what's most amazing is victims of severe radiation poisoning at Chernobyl, as you were saying, they were given this superfood and are now adults going on to live lives when they were given up for dead.
Correct. And one example I can give you, I know it's an animal example, but a dairy cow, a 1,500-pound dairy cow, needs only 1 gram of this food, which is 3 capsule equivalent, to live and give milk 5 years more, to give 5,000 grams, that's 1.5 gallon more milk per day by consuming only this 1 gram, as well as not suffer from osteoporosis, because when cows give their milk away every day, they lose their bone density, they lose their calcium, and they can hardly stand on their feet after 5 years. That is completely prevented with simply a couple capsules of this green food, a giant cow. So imagine, I'm explaining the efficiency here.
Yes. Well, Roland, we're running out of time for this episode. Listeners, I want to encourage you to protect your health with BioAge, and I understand you'll get it if you visit bioage.com/utopia, and please read for free online the book that tells it all at awakeningthegeniuswithin.com. Join us next Sunday, April 17th, to listen to another Essential Slope Solution with Gunnar Keel of Trace Botanicals, LLC. And I want to thank Anton Miserak of Shasta Song for the music used. Please contact us at whitebuffalonation@gmail.com and visit wbnslope.weebly.com and our White Buffalo Nation Facebook page, and support the Slope mission at gofundme.com/slope. Together, let's save life on planet Earth. That's yours, mine, and ours. Thanks for joining us.
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my
Hey, it's Flo, and this is my impression of a drill instructor directing a musical.